Uncle, the woman inside the drum is still alive. That day, with just a sentence from my niece, everything changed. I've been thinking of getting a divorce. I don't think I can make you happy anymore, Susan. I think it's best for you if we separate. At first glance, those words seem considerate, like they came from a caring husband. If I didn't know any better, I might have believed them. I only love you, Michelle. I don't feel anything for Susan anymore. Those were the words he told his mistress, revealing his true feelings. He chose her over me. I had always tried to maintain a peaceful life, always observing Paul's behavior. What was I striving for all this time? I can't possibly forgive Paul or his mistress. Thinking they have me fooled, I began preparations to get back at them. I won't let them have their way. My name is Susan Smith, 47 years old. I married Paul when I was 23. We both worked, and while we didn't have children, we lived happily. And my younger sister, Natalie, lives nearby. Though Natalie's much younger than me, we often had meals together and hung out, and we got along really well. Her daughter, Emma, often came to visit. Emma has been fond of me since she was little and is such an adorable niece. She possesses a somewhat mysterious power. I came to know of this when we went to the cemetery together. It was the first time Emma visited my grandmother's grave. She shouldn't have known the location. Yet, Emma walked straight to my grandmother's grave. She reached it before anyone else. Surprised, I asked her, "Hey, Emma, how did you know where the grave was?" "She told me, my great-grandma showed me the way." Emma had recognized my grandmother from photographs. Other times, using her mysterious power, Emma would predict things like, "Aunt Susan, Grandma's coming over today," when my mother was planning a surprise visit. Maybe she had a stronger sixth sense than most people. I thought our peaceful days would continue. But suddenly, Paul started avoiding me. He would come home late, stopped eating at home, and tried to avoid conversations. When I asked if something was wrong, he'd just say he was tired from work. I thought if I gave it some time, things would return to normal. But Paul's attitude remained unchanged. Before I knew it, I started treading carefully, watching his mood. "Can we talk about tomorrow's plans? I'm tired from work." "You handle it. I'm gonna sleep." "All right then." I wondered if we would ever return to the way things were. One day, when Paul was on a business trip, Natalie and Emma came over. We had fun during the day, but as the time for Paul to return approached, Emma's mood changed. Worried, I asked her if she felt all right. "Emma, are you okay? Feeling sick?" "Nah, not that. Just got a bad vibe." While they were talking, Paul came home. "Welcome back. Must have been a tiring day." "I'm exhausted, gonna take a bath right away," Paul replied curtly, showing little emotion. Then Emma approached with a shocking statement. "Uncle, the woman in the barrel is still alive." I couldn't make sense of her words. Paul, on the other hand, was clearly shaken. "What are you talking about? Stop saying weird stuff, Emma. I'm really tired." Saying this, he hastily retreated to the bathroom. After Paul was out of sight, I had to ask Emma again. "Emma, what you said earlier?" I hesitantly inquired. "Uncle is hiding something. I think he's up to no good," Emma said, her face full of sadness. Something was off about Paul, and Emma's words were concerning. I decided it'd be best for Natalie and Emma to go home for the night. I tried to organize the chaos in my mind. First, the barrel. Is there really a living person inside? I wanted to check immediately, but I didn't even know where the barrel was. And there's no way Paul would tell me if I asked. But I felt I couldn't just sit around waiting. While I was thinking, Paul came out of the bathroom. He said, "Just remembered something I gotta do," and headed out. I found it suspicious, but I knew he probably wouldn't let me tag along. We only have one car, and even if I called a cab, I wouldn't make it in time. Plus, if there really was someone in the barrel, it could be dangerous if I interfered. On impulse, I slipped a voice recorder into Paul's jacket pocket before handing it to him. In his hurry, Paul took the jacket without noticing and left. I prayed he wouldn't notice and that the recorder would capture everything. Late at night, Paul finally returned. I pretended to be asleep and observed him. Once he was sure I was home, Paul fell asleep. I took the opportunity to retrieve the voice recorder from his jacket. Listening to the recording was nerve-wracking, but I steeled myself and pressed play. To my relief, it had worked and I could hear Paul's mutterings. "Michelle's still alive. What am I gonna do?" It seemed he had some idea about the situation. The other person was indeed a woman named Michelle. After driving for some time, it sounded like Paul reached his destination as I heard the car stop and the door open. Then, I heard what sounded like a metal lid opening, followed immediately by a woman's angry voice. "Hey! What were you planning on doing with me? Don't play games!" Even without seeing her, it was clear she was furious. I felt relieved to know she was okay. I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm truly sorry. From the conversation, I pieced together the situation. They had been having secret rendezvous under the pretense of business trips. However, at some point, they had an argument, and in a fit of rage, Paul pushed Michelle. She hit her head and passed out, and in his panic, Paul hid her inside a barrel. When I heard the story, it sent shivers down my spine. I thought, did Paul really do something that horrible? Anyway, Paul kept apologizing to Michelle. Yet Michelle seemed far from calming down, continuing to yell. Then, after a while, she seemed to come up with an idea and began to speak. "You know, I could report this to the police. Your business would be done for. If you don't want that, give me some money. Please, anything but that. I'll pay for the medical expenses. Just forgive me." It seemed that wasn't enough for Michelle. "You think I'd forgive you just for some medical bills after what you did? Divorce your wife now. From now on, devote yourself to me. If you do, I won't go to the police. Simple, right? If that's what you want, I'll divorce her right away. The only person I love is you, Michelle. I have no feelings left for Susan. So, please, don't go to the police." After that, a recording captured the two discussing how to divorce without losing money. For both our sakes, it'd be bad if Susan found out about us. If we play our cards right, maybe the business can be just ours. I turned off the voice recorder. Paul had declared his love for his affair partner, Michelle, not me. Was it so easy for Paul to think about divorcing me? I had sensed an emotional distance from Paul's behavior. Yet, being told he'd chosen his mistress over me brought an indescribable sadness and emptiness. Had they been involved since Paul began acting distant towards me? The more I thought about it, the darker my emotions became. But I couldn't wallow in despair now. I had to grasp the situation and pull myself together. Michelle was demanding medical fees. And Paul had declared he would divorce me. The more I thought, the angrier I got. I won't let them have their way. I will never forgive them for deceiving me all this time. With that in mind, I came up with a plan. I decided to let them believe they had the upper hand for a while. Several weeks later, Paul told me he wanted a divorce. Probably a plan he concocted with Michelle. His tone wasn't the usual assertiveness, he seemed to be gauging my reaction. "I've been thinking of divorcing. I don't feel like I can make you happy anymore, Susan. I think setting you free is best for you." He clearly had no clue I knew everything. He emphasized he was doing it for my sake. Seeing him act this way made me hold back my anger. "If that's your decision, I won't stop you." "Fine." I agreed to the divorce too. "Thanks. I'm sorry this is so sudden. About the business. We ran a small business together. Paul wanted to take over as CEO. I want you to live freely without being tied to the business. Of course, I'll still give you money as a co-owner. That's fair, right?" I knew what he was up to. But for now, I didn't confront him. If I can get my share, then it's fine. Thanks for understanding. So, can we proceed through lawyers from now on? Paul handed me a lawyer's business card. Okay, got it. Well, thanks for everything. With that, Paul quickly left the house. He was probably heading to Michelle's. Just imagining them celebrating the divorce made me furious and hollow. But I had anticipated this, and I kept reassuring myself. The important part was yet to come. I whispered to myself, "Enjoy your fleeting happiness for now." A few months after the divorce, Paul and Michelle stormed into my house. "Hey! Our business sponsor's gone. The company's in ruins. This is your doing, isn't it?" Paul shouted the moment I opened the door. Michelle was right beside him. It was our first face-to-face meeting, and she was glaring at me furiously. Anyway? We're talking about something so important, and you bring that up? This is also important. It seems like you haven't transferred the money to me yet? Paul flinched for a moment. Well, the company's operations haven't been going smoothly. You understand that, right? We're talking about matters related to company management here. Think it through, will you? Susan! Just because your husband left you, are you seeking revenge? You know that'll only harm you in the end, right? Are you dense or something? Not just Paul, but Michelle too seemed to mock me with that attitude. I let out a heavy sigh. Don't you remember? Who established this company, and who granted the loan? The company we had been running was sponsored by my father. My father is a CEO who runs several businesses. It's your father, isn't it? I know that much. Then why did you assume he would continue to support us like before? Originally, I was the one managing the company as its president. Paul had no experience in management. Thus, ever since he took over, our company's sales had plummeted. I thought it was only natural. After all, I started the business and Paul, who hadn't learned a thing about management, couldn't suddenly become proficient. He didn't even ask for any handover details when he said he'd be taking over. Why couldn't he understand such a simple thing? What do you mean? It's our company. The reason the business didn't succeed is because you didn't help me out. And now you're demanding money while doing nothing? You must be kidding. You were the one who decided to give me the money, weren't you? Besides, you told me to do as I please. Also, what did you ever do for me while I was president? When I was president, Paul hardly did anything. All he did was go on so-called business trips which were just greetings to clients and occasional parties. I wonder what he's getting at. Unable to counter my valid points, Paul stood there, his face turning red with anger. Come on! It's your company too, isn't it? Stop complaining and cooperate. When Paul remained silent, Michelle chimed in. You might not know, but Paul injured me. If I go to the police, it'd be considered assault. Michelle seemed oddly proud as she declared this. Probably this was her trump card. If that's the case, you should go to the police without telling me. Brushing off her threat, Michelle's face turned beet red with anger. You can pretend to be tough all you want. But if this gets out, your company is finished. If you don't want that to happen, you better do something about it. With an annoyingly high-pitched voice, Michelle yelled. Slightly annoyed, I began to speak. Let me clarify it for you. My father has decided to stop sponsoring this company. Are you kidding? Paul looked visibly shaken. What are you doing on your own? This also concerns you, you know? It's just about a little money. That's right. You're the one who's gonna lose out. I guess you really are dense, aren't you, Susan? I handed them a piece of paper. I have no ties with this company anymore. I've already applied for my resignation, and it's been accepted. Since you took over as president, I'm not needed anymore. Both Paul and Michelle were taken aback. Just because you quit, you're gonna do this? To even ask your father to sink this company? That's way too much, even for you. No, you're mistaken. My father thinks investing in a company that's not profitable is a waste. He stopped sponsoring it. It's not something I requested. The real reason is your lack of management skills. It was irritating to be blamed by Paul when he was the one at fault. I stated the facts to him and gave him a slight smile. I can't believe you do something so cruel. I can't believe you're this kind of person. Paul is still blaming me. Acts like he's done nothing wrong. Doesn't he know how to reflect on his actions? So, I went and got something from the room. Y'all haven't reflected at all. Nothing but excuses. I can't stand listening. Who really did the terrible thing here? What I brought were numerous pieces of evidence of their affair. The day I found out about the affair, I had hired a private investigator. I had been gathering evidence of their affair. All to make them pay for what they did. You thought I didn't know you two were having an affair? Wait, this isn't right. This is after our divorce, right? Stop making stuff up. Look at the date here. It's before our divorce. You said you were out meeting folks, but you were seeing her. I just happened to run into Michelle. Paul is trying to make excuses. Seeing this, Michelle, who had been silent, starts to defend herself too. I didn't know he was married. I was just deceived. I didn't intend to have an affair. Playing the victim, Michelle tries to get out of it. I began to speak. Michelle, you knew he was married at this time, right? I have a voice recording of you talking about it. Confronted with the evidence, Michelle went from meek to snarky with a click of her tongue. So that's her true nature, I thought. Cheating, taking my company, and not paying the money you promised. Who's really in the wrong here? The two who were shouting just moments ago are now silent, looking down. I handed each of them an envelope. What's this? Why are you giving me one too? Michelle, receiving the envelope, was shaken. Why? It's to claim damages. I had prepared claim forms for compensation against both of them for this day. I was hesitant to give them, but after seeing the two of them making excuses without any remorse, I decided to set things right. Paul finally started to apologize after all I had done to him. Susan! I'm sorry, it's all my fault. It was just a momentary lapse. I'll break up with her and never contact her again. So let's start over. Hey! Are you kidding? You're just gonna run away? Shut up. I don't want to deal with you anymore. Nothing good ever happens. That's what I should be saying. The two began hurling insults at each other. Why does he think he can be forgiven now? Watching their ugly argument, I wondered why I ever married someone like him. Any happy memories I had with Paul seemed to vanish. Why would you think we can start over? There's no way I'm going back to you. You better pay the damages and the back payments. I made it clear to them both. No way! Paul sank to his knees. I'm not paying this. As she discarded the envelope and tried to leave, I told her. I know your address. I'll send another bill. Upon hearing this, Michelle finally seemed to resign herself and apologized. I'm sorry for cheating. I won't tell the police that Paul hurt me. I'll return Paul to you. So can you drop the compensation claim? Michelle was nearly in tears. Oh, why? I don't want Paul back, and since you said you'd go to the police, I've already called them. What? I had called the police when I went to get the evidence of the affair. Go ahead and tell the police about the harm you received from this man. I won't drop the compensation claim either. Hey! Susan, are you kidding me? You don't care what happens to me or the company? Just then, the police arrived. Michelle, seemingly resigned, told the police about the injury she had received from Paul. I handed over a voice recorder to the police as evidence. I'm not on Michelle's side, but what Paul did is unforgivable. He should face proper judgment. We'll take a detailed statement at the station, said the officer. It seems Michelle was going too, as a victim. Haven't you been to the police station before? The officer asked her. Michelle flinched, looking downcast, and got into the patrol car. Susan, help me! Paul, looking dazed, pleaded in a desperate voice. "We're strangers now. Reflect on your actions," I said, watching Paul being taken away. Paul was charged with assault for harming Michelle. Not only did he have to compensate me, but he also had to settle with Michelle, which left him in significant debt. Furthermore, Michelle frequently had run-ins with the police due to relationship troubles. This time, she was the victim, but the police sternly warned her about her behavior. She was drawn to Paul because of his business title. However, with Paul's title gone and him in massive debt, her interest would likely wane quickly. I don't know what their relationship is now. Michelle has been paying me the compensation properly, so I don't feel the need to pry further. All I wish is for both Paul and Michelle to truly reflect on their actions. That's all. Paul's company soon went bankrupt after he became the representative. I established a new company and rehired all the employees from the previous one. I felt it wasn't right to drag the employees into our mess. Initially, I worked out of obligation. But now, I find fulfillment in my work, and I want to work hard for the sake of my employees and my expectant father. "You smile a lot more these days, Aunt Susan," said Emma, whom I met after a long time. After parting ways with Paul, I decided to live for myself. Not constantly worrying about Paul's mood, but valuing my own feelings. I visit places I want to, dine with the people I want to meet, and lead a fulfilling life. Running the company by myself has also made finances easier to manage, with fewer unnecessary expenses like pointless business trips. The work environment improved for my employees too. Apparently, Paul was harsh with them, and his absence made their lives easier. I regret not noticing Paul's unjust behavior sooner. From now on, I must ensure not only the company's well-being but also that of the employees. In retrospect, without Emma's remark, I might have remained oblivious. I might have remained married to Paul, unaware of his affair, possibly losing both the company and all my money. I owe it all to you, Emma. Thank you. I believe Emma helped me out. Seeing my gratitude, Emma gave a bright smile. Our issues had settled, and Emma's mysterious power seemed to have diminished. Perhaps her power existed just to help me, I sometimes pondered. When I discovered the affair and faced the divorce, I was devastated and overwhelmed with sadness. Perhaps our marriage wasn't as smooth as I thought. But I can change the course of my future. Surrounded by loved ones and engaging in work I love. I don't want to dwell on past failures but want to move forward, looking ahead.